Hello folks and welcome to the video. Okay, the Deeptech Vista X. Let's have a quick overview of the machine and show you the components, and then let's have a look at the control panel and let's talk about all the features and functions you get with this excellent metal detector. Okay, so here we go then, the controls on the Deeptech Vista X. Right, let's start with gain. Gain, sensitivity, same thing, different name. Certainly in this case anyway. So your gain, people often get a little bit confused with this. Now I'm sure a lot of you out there know exactly what you're doing with this, but just to kind of give you a bit of an overview, there is a general assumption that gain or sensitivity needs to be cranked right up as far as you can get it to get depth. That's not how it works. It's not about pumping power into the ground. It's about the receiver signal and what it hears from the ground. And it is slightly different. It is related to power loosely, but all I can say is pop some coins, things in the ground at different depth and start winding your sensitivity back. See how much calmer the machine can be, but you're still getting those targets. So you don't always need to crank sensitivity up. And certainly this machine performs really, really well with the gain nowhere near the full red. You simply don't need it that high. It's there if you want it. And yes, when you're going for big, deep, really deep targets, caches and things like that, you might want your machine chattering like mad and you might want your gain or sensitivity ramped up. But I advise anybody to have a play with this because it's a bit of a misconception. And certainly on this machine, you do not need to have it cranked to get great performance. Drop some targets in the ground and have a play with your sensitivity, folks. You might be surprised how good it is when you dial it back a little bit. Then you've got your threshold. And now this kind of works, this has a relationship with the gain. The threshold, the higher you take it, the more kind of ground feedback you get. Now this is down to the user. I really like this because it gives you the option. You can turn your threshold up so you're getting a little bit of ground feedback, and they do generally say that this gives you slightly more depth because you're really on the point where you're almost reading the ground and anything is gonna signal. I personally like it slightly back from that, and I find the performance still very, very good. So I do have it so that there is a little bit of a background threshold noise, but I don't have it banging in my ears. I just have it ever so slight in the background, and I find that is a happy marriage. I can detect like that, but I know that the machine is, yeah, it's where I want it to be. So the threshold, another one, you have to play around with that really, see what suits you. If you do turn it down so you can't hear it, don't worry. It doesn't mean that the Vista X isn't going to find anything. It simply doesn't work like that. But it's just how far on the edge you want it to run. So if you do back it off so that you really can't hear anything, I wouldn't suggest winding it right back. That will affect the performance. But on any soil or ground, you can either take it back so you just so you can't hear it, or have it so you can. Either or, you'll get good performance. But yeah, they call it running it on the edge, where you can just hear that little murmur in the background. And a lot of people really like that for maximum kind of sensitivity, really. Alternative disc. Now this is interesting, and this is something that I'm really glad this machine's got. I do apologise, my pencil is starting to muck about with the focus. Right, so the alternative disc. Now what happens there is quite simply you set your discrimination down here, and there's the little red dot. So up to the red dot is your small bits of iron. Your usual kind of levels of disc works very, very well indeed. Now on some sites and some areas you might want a little bit of what you call alternative disc, and what this does is when you engage it, if you've got things like bottle tops, things with mixed metals, and even coke, this machine can knock out coke, and there are some really good demonstrations on YouTube of that being done. So you've got an alternative disc. So if you want to run with the kind of standard disc that does get tricked by certain things, and then set this at levels to knock out certain things, maybe bottle tops, coke, large iron, that kind of thing, you can. And all you do is use the toggle switches down the bottom. And you've got a toggle switch on either side, and that allows you to push and engage the alternative disc. So you can run with your normal disc, and then if you've got one of those targets, or if you're in one of those areas, you can use the toggles and you could literally fire those up. Let me just get those. That's better. You can see the toggles now. Sorry, I didn't have it far enough back. There it is. So you've got these toggle switches, one on each side. They both do the same thing. And basically that will engage the alternative disc, and it will help you to, you need to play around with this one basically. You need to understand what's in your soil, what it is you're going to use it for. I don't use it a lot because I don't have much coke. I don't do American style coin shooting where I'm going to get fussed by bottle tops and things like that. So I don't use it a lot. But for people in certain situations, having that double disc scenario is really, really helpful. Iron volume, exactly what it says on the tin. You can hear the iron in the background. And if you want the iron to be a softer tone, you can adjust it so that the iron is a much softer tone. Out the box, this is a two-tone machine. If you turn the iron volume all the way to 0, you've got a single tone machine, because obviously your discrimination's still working, but you've turned the iron volume right down. So that turns it into a single tone machine. So you don't have to hear the iron if you don't want to, and you can hear the iron as loud or as quiet as you desire. Ground balance, very, very simple. All you do is you literally lift the coil, raise and lower, and you just move the ground balance. If you've got one of those places where you're struggling with your ground balance, don't panic. Put it around about the middle. You'll still get good performance. At the end of the day, ground balance isn't the end of the world, and you can always test with a couple of bits of iron. I always have a couple of small bits of iron in my pocket and a coin. If I'm struggling with things like ground balance on any detector, then I always wave a few things and just make sure that whatever it's set at, it's identifying small bits of iron as opposed to coins and things like that. But on most sites, you should find that you can ground balance. And as I say, pump it up and down, and you just want to get to the point where the sound just whimpers away into the background and the machine is just nice and calm and quiet as you're raising and lowering the coil. It can be anywhere, so don't worry. It could be way down there, it could be over there like that. The reds and the whites are only a guide. On certain fields you might find that your ground balance is right over there like that. It's not a problem. If that's what it's telling you, that's where you need to put it. But it's a simple pump and move until you get a nice, smooth, quiet machine going up and down. Volume is exactly what it says on the tin. That's just volume. So that's just what's in your headphones. If you're not using headphones, that's just how loud you want it. It does go lovely and loud, so you've got no problem hearing this. If you're in an area miles from anyone and you don't want headphones on, you can really crank this up and it will boom out to you. So you do have that if you want it. And last of all, of course, you've got your discrimination, which we've already touched on with the double disc. So again, that's your standard discrimination. There is one more thing, the toggle down here as well. If you bring it forward, it actually acts like an all metal. You can go over everything and you'll get a nice single high tone beep. And then you can, if you want to, you can put it back in the middle and that will engage the disc, so you can do a secondary check. So you've got two functions with these toggles, which is very, very handy. The alternate disc and an all metal mode. So it's a very, very well-rounded machine, this. There's plenty there without it being difficult. It really isn't a difficult machine to use. It simply isn't. Gain, I'm quite happy with it on 30, 35, 40 if the field will allow. But as I said, don't be fooled into thinking you have to have it right near the red to get performance with this machine. You don't. You can knock it back a bit. It's absolutely fine. Threshold, again, as you want it, as you like it, as you wish. Use the alternative disc if you've got tricky stuff that you want that double discrimination for. As I say, I don't use it, and on a lot of fields you'll never use it. Anything that's an iffy signal, I dig it anyway, and that's just the way I am. If anything's iffy, I'm not going to alternate disc it and cancel it out. I'm going to investigate. But obviously there are places and there are environments where you just dig too much stuff, too much trash that gives a good target, and I respect that, and I appreciate that. So in those places, for those people, you've got that alternative disc. Very, very good for coke, and very, very good for park hunters who don't want bottle tops and things like that. But again, you need to play around with it. Iron volume, ground balance, pump up and down, very, very easy to get used to. Overall volume and your discrimination. So some nice features. You've got your toggles, as we've spoken about as well. Some really nice features on this machine without being over complicated. It's not difficult to set up, sorry. It's very easy to set up. It's very, very easy to use. It's got lovely, crisp, clean audio. And yeah, it's a highly underrated and very, very capable metal detector. Okay, folks, hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions or if you want to know any more, please do contact Metal Detectors Online. They are the sole UK retailers for Deeptech. And you can also pop a question in the comments down below if there's anything you want me to try and answer for you. Right, hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next time, good luck, happy hunting, and we'll see you soon.